All right, what is up, guys? We are back for another week of the fight forecast. Once again, I am Ryan. He is Adam. We are breaking down UFC Fight Night I versus Carvello. And yeah, last week, Nunez, the goat, she took care of business and completely destroyed Spencer. Hopefully you guys made some money off of that. I know I did pretty good. Broke even on DraftKings, made a little bit of money on betting and stuff like that. So, kick it right off. We got the opening fight here. We got Anthony Ivy versus Christian Aguilera. I'll be completely honest here. This fight, this is kind of a dog or pass fight for me. Ivy, well, he has looked good as of recently in the UFC. When I was watching over his past fights, I noticed that when he goes to strike, it seems like he lunges in and kind of leaves himself open. It seems like for a strike. And Aguilera, well, he hasn't looked the greatest. He is a good striker. And that does worry me a little bit it hasn't seemed to affect Ivy yet. And he is very highly priced on DraftKings. But personally, just that worried me way too much when I looked at it, that it seems like whenever he goes to strike, he kind of lunges in and leans his entire body forward and leaves himself wide open. Maybe it was just those couple fights that I watched, but it seemed to happen in probably 2 or 3 different fights, and that seems like a red flag to me that someone should eventually pick up on, and I wouldn't want to be betting on him when it comes to that. For negative 200 favorite almost, it seems like way too high odds for me to personally bet on and feel comfortable betting on. What about you?
My feelings are pretty well the same as your last sentiment there, and that there's not really enough on either of these fighters to feel comfortable betting it. But I do feel like it will be Anthony Ivy quick in the first. I don't see this fight going to the mat. I think it's going to be Anthony Ivy KO in the first round. I say that because Christian Aguilera, I can let 1 or 2 losses of any type slide on a record, but in his recent history, he's got, I think, about 3 KO losses. Though he has twice the record as far as experience and number of fights. I just feel like this fight was kind of made for Anthony Ivy for his debut. So on DK, DFS, I'll probably give Anthony a toss-up based pretty well upon that. The fact that he is new. I know a lot of guys out there, they typically like to kind of let a fighter prove themselves in that first match before they really go investing heavily in them. So I think I'll be able to get a good split of the lower ownership on him. But like you said, as a bet or anything like that, it's not anything I would go too heavy on. Maybe the inside the distance prop.
Yeah, and the one other thing that kind of worried me a little bit, I don't know if this fight was originally planned, but I do know that Ivy was supposed to be the replacement against GM3 last Saturday.
Right.
The fight ended up still happening with Heinisch, and so he didn't end up fighting GM3, but it kind of seems like maybe this fight got kind of thrown together quickly.
Right.
A lot of the fights seem to be happening like that right now, where you're hearing a new fight thrown together every time that I look online, but that means that he didn't really have much time to kind of train for this guy at all, maybe a week. And, that just kind of personally worries me a little bit.
Yeah, it worries me. Definitely not anything I call a lock or anything like that. But I feel like sometimes when a guy steps up last minute like they did last week with Anthony Ivy and says, hey, I'll fight to save the card or whatever, to save us making money as a company, you know what I mean? I sometimes feel like they get matchmade to a little bit of a payback, you know what I mean? Hey, thanks for stepping in there. We didn't need you. Highness stepped in or whatever, but we'll get you on the next. We'll get you paid on the next card. You know what I mean? So sometimes
Yeah,
I'm not going to say. I mean, a fight's a fight. You know, everybody's got a shot, but I feel like they get favorable matchmaking, if you will, in situations like that where they step up and do the company a favor. So that's
makes sense.
I know that's a lot of narrative or whatever you call it, a little bit, but sometimes it pans out.
Yeah, makes sense. So we both kind of agree there. No bet at all. Next fight, we got Derek Miner versus Jordan Griffin. I'll kick this one to you, and you let me know what you think about this one.
I don't know what to think about this one. At first, I thought, looking through the records, and a lot of times when I see this, it's like, boom, there it is. Jordan Griffin probably going to get a second submission against Derek Minner. They've already fought once. But then early in the week, too, so when your sharps are playing a lot of their money, early in the week, we saw huge action on Minner, and I was like, what the hell? So now I'm a little bit reluctant to make any plays until kind of I watch how the lines settle out. And I'll definitely, that's kind of bumped Griffin from around mid-range in my top 10 of DraftKings plays to about spot number 7 or so. I'll go a little lighter on him. Maybe somebody knows something I don't, but I still think it'll be Griffin probably round 2 sub is what I have locked in on Tapology. I'm not sure that he'll score the highest. He's not priced the highest either, though. He's mid to high 8s, I think. High 8s.
Yeah, I think 87 or somewhere around there.
That's pretty much my thoughts on it. It's going to be a lean with Griffin. Gut pick was Griffin. I'll stick with it. But we'll definitely be watching for some guys to be taking Derek Minner as an underdog as far as DraftKings. So look out for that. I'm sure there'll be plenty of guys playing Minner this week with all that money coming in.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I honestly, I think this fight is going to go exactly like how the first one went. I think Griffin is going to win by submission. Minner is great at submission, but that honestly, strangely enough, is his biggest downfall as well, is that he sucks against the submission. He's great at tapping people out. He's won 21 fights by submission, but he's lost 10 fights by submission. You'd think a guy that is that good at a aspect of that game, and it is as tough of an aspect as submissions are, that he know how to stop it, and he just cannot stop it at all.
Right.
Now, granted, he was. I do think he was winning his last fight. Now, granted, this was a while back. He was winning his last fight against Griffin at first, and then Griffin got the submission win. But I just think he's the better all around fighter, and that Miner honestly isn't that good of a fighter. He's a great submission artist, but besides that, against Griffin, who doesn't really get caught up in the submission very often, I don't think that he's going to have an issue against him. I personally have a bet on Griffin. When I got him, he was negative 185. He's negative 170 now. So, like you said, money has came in on Miner and drove that line down a little bit. But I do like Griffin in this fight personally, both on DraftKings as well as betting wise. And another prop that I actually like. I don't know if I'll bet on it just because the odds aren't the most amazing odds. Like I said last week, if I'm going to bet someone to win a certain way, I like the odds to be at least plus 200 if I'm going to kind of push aside the rest of how he could win the fight. But Griffin right now to win by sub is plus 185. So, I mean, for someone that's, has lost 10 fights via submission and has shown that he can get submitted by the same exact guy that he's fighting right now. Granted, a while ago, but that still is definitely something to look into at those odds, because I think if Griffin does win, that is how he more likely will win, is via submission. So the next fight we got here is one we were kind of talking about a little bit before we went on air. It was originally supposed to be Tyson Nam versus Ryan Bennett, which was a fight that I had absolutely no interest in at all. It was a fight that I was completely fading, basically. Now it is Bennett seems to have dropped out. So Tyson Nam is now fighting Zaruka Idashev. And I mean, we talked about this fight a little bit before we went on air. It's still a no bet for me personally. It was a no bet before. It's still a no bet now. Adashev has made his living and made his name on the glory scene basically as a kickboxer. And while he has shown great striking power in glory, it's a big difference between glory and UFC when you add in the grappling and all of that nature that you don't necessarily have in glory. Personally, I think if I had to pick a side, I'd pick Nam. I lean Nam, but not enough to bet on him right now. It's almost a pick 'em across the board. But I don't feel comfortable in betting Nam per se, just because I honestly, he has fought tougher competition. He fought Pettis. And, he's fought some big names in his division to start off, but he didn't necessarily look great in those fights. He has great power, which I think could go to his advantage against a guy who primarily is a kickboxer. He probably doesn't like to grapple as much. So, power may be something that helps him out there. And he may not necessarily be looking for a point-based fight compared to his last two fights, which, went the distance. But I'm completely fading this fight, both on DraftKings as well as betting-wise.
Well, that's kind of where I was at when the fight was initially made with Ryan Benoit. I had a lean towards Benoit for his UFC experience and his occasional shot at the landing a bomb with the knockout. I didn't think it would happen against Tyson Nam, to be honest with you, with his higher caliber competition like Kai Kara-France and Sergio Pettis, who he took to decisions in both matches. I'm still tossed up on this one. I think I think we're minus 115.
Yeah, pretty much even across the board.
I think, honestly, what are our prices on DK? Do you remember what Adashev's priced on DK off the top of your head?
Adashev, I believe, was 7,700.
7,700. So use the dog.
Right,
yeah, 7,700.
Yeah, Adashev is 7,700, and Nam is 8,000.
Okay. Yeah.
So pretty much even on that board as well, as even as you can get on DraftKings.
They're even enough in price that I think if you, the viewer, have a lean, I think you ought to go with it. I think me personally, man, I know I said just before we got on air that this is like a no pass for me or whatever, but with the tape I watched and stuff and the little bit of combat sambo that I've seen Adashev pull off, he may have an advantage on the ground if he can get it there. Guy's fighting out of Brooklyn, New York now. He's got the 3 Bellator wins that he's coming off of, 2 of which by finish. He might be worth a dog play. One dog lineup. You know me, I typically do like 3 lineups. I'll probably have one Adashev dog lineup just in case he's the boom or bust guy. Because if he wins, I believe he does have a chance of he's got a chance of catching that knockout, I think. Possibly. More than likely, I think it goes to decision, and I don't know who wins, man. I can't say. But that's pretty well my take on it. Nothing too strong.
Yeah, same here. I mean, initially...
Adashev KO prop. KO, TKO proper Adashev inside the distance prop. If it's super high, maybe tap it.
Yeah, they haven't announced any props yet on Best Fight Odds when I was looking earlier today, just because the fight just got announced today. So they've put in is basically the inside the distance and stuff like that. I mean, initially when I looked at it, I thought Adashev, but just the more that I watched tape on Nam, he just doesn't really seem to get rocked very often. So I was hoping to see that maybe he dropped his defense or something like that and got rocked, and that would lead me to going to Adashev. Because when I watched him, I was very impressed with his glory kickboxing skills and his striking skills, but I just didn't personally see that. So it's I'll probably have Adashev in a couple lineups just because I normally pay 20 lineups, so I'll probably have him in one or two, but it's not a fight that I'll go big on either side.
Yeah. Once it comes out, I'm aware once it does come out, you might also check the goes to decision prop on that fight.
I think the go to the decision already came out. Let me double check that 1 second.
Yeah, -175.
-175. So I mean, yeah, it's the same thing. It's probably not really something that I'd want to jump on.
Yeah.
Just because I mean it could go to the decision, but it very well could end in a knockout as well. I honestly, I think this is the fight is the pass at this point, betting it and DraftKings wise for the most part. So next we got a fight that I think the line is personally a little more wider than it should be. So we got Julia Avila versus Gina Mazzana. Now, Avila right now, last I checked, is over -500. I don't get it, personally. Now, should she win? Yeah, she should win. But I do see a path to victory for Mazzana. She averages over 3 takedowns a fight. And, Avila's takedown defense, it's under 50%. So I think if she can last the first round, I very well think that she could be a dog to grind out a decision and get enough takedowns that she could win by decision. I probably won't bet it just because it's so far out there of a bet that I don't feel comfortable throwing a unit on it. But I think the odds are just a little too far apart. I think it should be closer to maybe right now. Mazzina is roughly about a plus 385 dog. And I think it should be closer to probably like a plus 300, plus 270, somewhere around there. Right now, her to win by decision is plus 580. That's something that I honestly may throw a unit on. Do I think it'll happen? Yeah, it's not something that I feel overly confident in, but I do see that path to victory for her with something that she succeeded in the past. In one of her past fights, she got 5 takedowns. In another one, she got 2 takedowns. She's shown that she can take down fighters before. So, I mean, it's something to look into. I think Avila is a little overpriced on DK, being the highest salaried person on DK. I believe she's 9,300, and I just don't see that personally. I think she should be a little bit lower than that, and I think Mazzina is 6,800 on DraftKings. I personally will probably have her in a couple GPPs just because it'll allow you to build up the rest of your lineup. And I could see her get 2, 3, 4 takedowns, and even if she just gets that and some significant strikes, I could very easily see her getting 50 to 70 points on DraftKings.
I agree with you on the salary for sure. I don't think Avila should be priced where she's at for a fight that has a definite possibility of going to decision, and is actually still lined at plus 140 if you don't even want to bother picking a side of the fight. If you think that this fight is closer than the lines suggest, that's plus 140 for this fight to go to decision right now. Pretty sweet little bet there. May be worth a unit. Yeah, I guess the lines makers see Avila getting a finish or something. I don't know what they see that I don't. I think it was. Let me double check here, just so I'm not misquoting. Yeah, fight doesn't go to decision, minus 180. It looks like they see it, if anything, leaning toward by Avila by KO TKO at plus 130, as opposed to Avila wins by submission plus 400. I'd have to agree with that. I think, like you said, Gina Mazzani's a dog in this spot, and an underrated one at that. She's got a lot more experience than this girl, especially with UFC caliber fighters. Whether or not she's came out with W's in those fights or not, she certainly has some takedown defense and stuff. She's a fighter's fighter. She's in it to fight. Win or loss. I think she, to the best of my knowledge, still dating UFC fighter Tim Elliott out of the Kansas City area. So, like I said, they're kind of a fighting kind of couple. You know what I mean? As far as like what your mind's on, they're obsessed with their craft. So, to say that Gina Mazzani doesn't have a dog's chance would be ridiculous. So I don't blame you at all for taking that salary relief. I have not yet made a lineup with Avila in it. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I guess she's got a shot at the inside the distance, a shot at a finish. I don't particularly see it. It's probably mostly a pass for me, as I see a couple fighters just above Mazzani that I have a little bit more interest in.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much the same way as you. That, I mean, I'm sure I'll, make multiple GPP lineups. I'm sure I'll have her in a few, but I don't see her. I don't see her probably being more than 35% owned in my GPP lineups. Like I said, I normally make about 20 lineups. So I don't see her being more than probably 7, if that. And that's just simply because I like a lot of the lower salaried players. Honestly, this card, but so the next fight we got here is we got Charles Rosa versus Kevin Aguilar. We recently saw Rosa go against Bryce Mitchell, and honestly, one of the better fights that I've seen in a while, on a completely different aspect. That was a complete grappling clinic. And even though Rosa scored absolutely nothing on DraftKings, which surprised me when I looked at it today, because I remember watching that fight, and it seemed back and forth. It seemed like Rosa was doing a submission attempt, Mitchell was doing a submission attempt. They were reversing each other left and right. At least how I remembered the fight. And I looked at DraftKings today, and Rosa only scored
1.5.
1.5, was it now?
I think. Let me check.
It was crazy low when I looked at it. I was very surprised. It was
2.5.
2.5. Yeah, 2.5. And that surprised me. Like I didn't remember the fight like that, honestly. But I think that I personally do like Rosa a lot. I think that he um, he's a very good ground fighter. I think he's going to be able to get the takedown in this fight. Um, I, I mean, I don't think that Aguilar is uh, the type of fighter that personally is going to give him a lot of issues. I think he's more of the type of fighter that likes to throw a lot of strikes, which I think that Rosa should be able to throw enough strikes to maybe combat the takedown or get the takedown off of, some kicks, punches, stuff like that. Um, I personally think that Rosa wins this fight via decision. I think he gets enough strikes and enough takedowns to win by decision. Um, he's one of my favorite players on DraftKings, honestly, this week is Rosa. Right now, I do have a bet on him at plus 137. And also, looking at it, I really do like Rosa via by decision. Right now, the odds for that is plus 375.
Okay.
And I think if Rosa wins, that is how he's going to win. I don't really see him much of a striker per se. Yeah, he has potential to catch the submission, but I don't really see that in this fight personally. So I think if he does win, which he should, in my opinion, um, I think that's how he wins. So plus 375 via decision. I'm probably gonna, like I said, I already have a bet on him to win straight up. I'll probably throw a bet on that one as well, just because that's way too good of odds to pass up.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in full agreement with you there. Sorry. Yeah, I'm pretty much in full agreement with you there. I was eyeing Rosa as one of my dog plays for DraftKings. Basically, just the fact that he's kind of backed into a corner where, I mean, he's not like 3 and out or anything like that, but it's been win loss kind of stuff, which doesn't necessarily secure you the next contract necessarily. He's been around with the company for a while. I think he's had tougher competition than this. He went to the third round with Shane Burgos before catching the knockout. I feel like Shane Burgos has a lot better hands than Kevin Aguilar. I could see Rosa definitely making the decision, like you said, at plus 375. I think he's definitely looking to get a comeback after the kind of romping he took from Bryce Mitchell from, I guess, what a lot of people perceived as a romping. On DraftKings, it certainly was score-wise between the two. Charles Rosa, I remember being on Manny Bermudez when Charles Rosa took him out. So, definite submission threat against a submission threat. I think you're right. I think overall he's a strong value play. That's why he's one of our value plays. UFC level experience. We've seen him test against plenty of different skill levels, and he's in a situation where he needs a win. I think to kind of stay relevant, or at least stay fighting as a throw my name in the hat kind of guy to keep having fights. Like you had kind of alluded to, even though he took a loss in the last one, it was an exciting kind of back and forth affair. So I think as long as he can keep putting on exciting fights and log this win, they'll keep him around. I'll probably be about 50% ownership on Rosa. Pretty good value.
Yeah, I'll definitely have him in a good amount of lineups. I think he's one of my bigger value plays this week. Looking at salaries, he's definitely there's one other guy a little bit lower than him that I personally like just as much as him that we'll go over later. But he definitely will be there for it. One of my bigger value plays for sure. So the next fight we got kind of came out of nowhere. I was looking at the card, researching these fights and stuff like this the other day, and I look at it and I'm like, where'd this fight come from? She literally fought, a week ago. It seemed like. So we got Hannah Cyphers versus Mariah Agapova. Um, I mean, props for Cyphers for coming back this quickly and for going up a weight class. She looked honestly pretty good against Dern before she got caught in that submission. She was throwing strikes pretty strong, and then just got caught and didn't really know how to get out of the submission at that point in time. So I mean, she definitely didn't look horrible in that fight. And honestly, going into that fight, I thought that the line was a little bit off personally. Um, I thought Cyphers had more of a chance than people were giving her. Uh, I I just don't think this is the right move for her, though. Granted, she has only lost against the top of the top. It seems, the big names she has lost against. If you look at her win loss record, and you go down the names of the people that she's lost against, they're all well known fighters. They're all pretty big name fighters. You got Dern, you got Hill. I can't remember the other ones right now, but they were all pretty big name fighters. I just don't think this is the right move for her right now. Though. She's just coming off of a loss. She's going up in weight class, which is always tough. And she's going against a person now. Granted, this is her first fight in the UFC, I do believe. But in Invicta, she looked really good. She was one of the top fighters in Invicta. Has an 8-1 record. She's looked very good in her fights. I don't think I'm gonna bet the fight personally, just due to the fact that I think there's personally too many unknowns for me to feel comfortable betting one way or the other. I do like Agapova on DraftKings. I do have her. It's one of my cash plays, I do believe. Um, and one thing, looking at the odds here, especially showing that Cyphers just her past fight against Dern, struggled against the submission. The second that she was caught in that leg lock, she didn't know what the hell to do. Um, right now, Agapova by submission is plus 600. So that definitely is something that jumps out to me. That's something that you may want to throw a half a unit on or some of that sort, due to the fact that it seems like Cypher doesn't really know what to do if she gets caught in this mission.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Agapova by sub plus 5 for a nice little stab at a prop there. Yeah. We've got a seemingly decorated flyweight versus a strawweight matchup pretty well. I mean, Hannah Cyphers looking to take another fight here, make some quick money. I think they're throwing Cyphers in the mix again because, well, she's not exactly top talent, but she's got heart. She'll definitely go in there and fight. She's tough. She trains for sure. She's in good shape. She's just not fully technically sound, I guess, and doesn't have much of a ground game. Kind of like the blueprints kind of out there on how to take her out, especially with Dern being able to get it done quickly last time out.
Yeah.
So I think Agapova definitely sees that, and will be looking for the sub, just like you said. Akhmat Fight Club, if anybody follows or whatever, there's a little bit of politics behind any of the fighters with the Akhmat Fight Club. By politics, I mean money, investors, things like that in the company, those sort of politics. just picking up fighters from certain countries through certain gyms or venues, if you will. You have to maintain a relationship with some of these the guys that run these gyms, I guess, in order to have access to a lot of their fighters. It seems like is what I'm kind of put together over the years, and they produce a lot of good combo type fighters. A lot of good competition. So I think in a division that they're looking to kind of fill up a little bit more with legitimate talent that does exist, they're just not rostered, whether it's financial negotiations or whatever. I think they've done a good job in Agapova here. They obviously had enough interest in her to put her on the Contender Series a while back against Tracy Cortez, who ended up taking the decision there. But I think let a little time pass, and it's one of those situations where they decided to go with both fighters. Like I said, go ahead and fill up that roster a little bit more talent. I'm fairly confident in the Agapova, at least straight. Agapova straight. Agapova to win. I like her a lot on DraftKings as well. I think she will most definitely get at least one takedown, maybe an advance or two, en route to a submission, like you said. Still a women's fight, though. I'd still always take a look at the goes to decision line.
Yeah.
And always pay attention to who's going to be scoring the most head strikes if it's not completely distinguished on the mat in this one particular scenario. But yeah, Agapova. Maybe Agapova second round sub.
Yeah, I think I have her right now. Either second or third round sub is what I think I sent you. But so right now, next fight we got here, I'll kick to you first because it seems like you're a lot more on one side of this fight than I am. When we were going over our DraftKings ratings earlier, there was a big discrepancy between one of these two fighters. So we got Jordan Espinoza versus Mark De La Rosa. I'll kick this one to you first because you seem to like De La Rosa, and honestly, I don't understand why.
Well, you could be right. My bird play last week was straight. I don't know if it was garbage. I mean, I guess he had a shot at winning, but it wasn't the right play, which is what matters by the end of the day. So, yeah, I'm on De La Rosa this time. A lot more confident than some plays last week. My confidence stemming from the fact that Mark De La Rosa has chosen to train at Team Moyama for this fight. I'm going to have to bump over to my notes here, but training at Team Moyama, we have Alex Perez, who just took out Hussier Formiga by leg kicks last week. Getting my notes here. Yeah, he's training at Surging Team Moyama with streaking Alex Perez, who just beat Formiga by round one leg kicks, and Alex Perez, this is, has also beaten both Espinoza, who De La Rosa is going to fight, round one arm triangle, and De La Rosa, who he's now training with at Team Moyama by decision. So De La Rosa, who typically fights, it looks like they mix up the bantam and flyweight, but De La Rosa nonetheless was able to go to decision with Alex Perez, and this is kind of the whole MMA math kind of thing, you know what I mean? But that's pre-training at Oyama. Okay, that's De La Rosa's stock. He was able to go to decision with Perez. Then we've got Espinosa, who's lost by submission in both of his last fights, I believe both by first round. Submissions being Mark De La Rosa's forte, once again, of the fighting style, striking, Muay Thai, whatever. I'd say the submission game is probably De La Rosa's forte. So with those combination of things, the fact that he was able to go longer against a guy I respect more than both of these fighters and rank higher than both of these fighters in Alex Perez, who has only been beaten in recent history by Joseph Benavidez. I think that he's going to have the training and be able to pick Alex Perez's brain enough to go ahead and probably knock Espinosa off the UFC roster, possibly even with the 3 and out. And this is pretty confident. I'd say the confidence level of like my Burns pick I see it happening, man. I think he's training with a guy who's got the game plan. I think he had the game plan even going in prior to training at Oyama with a great coach and training partners like Alex Perez. The other note here, Jordan Espinosa mostly fighting at flyweight and Mark De La Rosa mostly fighting at bantamweight. I don't know, man. I think any kind of skill gap that we're seeing, if we just look at these fighters from afar, that Espinosa might have in physique or whatever, I think it's going to be negated by the training change that De La Rosa is going through, doing what he needs to do to get the win, and obviously having the research on his opponent. So I'm going to be playing De La Rosa heavy. I will be fading Espinosa entirely. And that's what I have for you.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, I did like De La Rosa. When I first looked at both of them, that was my initial lead. The more I looked into it, though, the more thing. So both fighters right now eat about 4 strikes per minute. Both honestly have not done much. I mean, I do understand that he went the distance with Perez, but neither fighter has really done much in the win-loss column, since coming to the UFC. I think both of these fighters need this fight. I think, just like you said, whichever one loses this fight could very well see the door hitting their ass on the way out. The one thing that worried me, the one thing that took me off De La Rosa and slightly put me on Espinosa is the fact that De La Rosa has a 42% takedown defense. And in a fight that I think that will be a very close fight, that makes me a little bit leery. Now, granted, Espinosa only goes down for, less than 1 takedown per fight. So I'm not, putting too much weight into that. But I think if he looks at the same stuff that we look at, which obviously he should, he should be able to see that De La Rosa has this bad of a takedown defense, and that is his, absolute game plan for a guy that normally does go for about 1 takedown per fight to, grind out a victory. Like you said, De La Rosa does have a very good submission game, so that is something that Espinosa is going to have to be wary of if he does take him down to the ground. But there was just too many unknowns, too many question marks for this fight for me to personally like either side. At the end of the day, the more that I looked at it, it was just complete fade for me, honestly. I don't think I will really have much of either fighter on DraftKings. And I definitely, if I do, it will probably be De La Rosa, honestly, just because I think Espinosa is way too high priced. If I remember correctly, he's 8,500 on DraftKings, and that just seems way too high for him. So if I do have anyone on DraftKings in this fight, I think it probably will be De La Rosa, but I don't really feel confident in him, and I probably won't have much of him at all, honestly. I see this as maybe one of those fights that I completely 100% fade and don't have either of the fighters at all. So the next fight we got here, we got Andre Philly versus Charles Jourdain. I mentioned earlier that there was one other fighter that I liked just as much as Rosa, maybe even a little bit more than Rosa, around his price points on DraftKings, and that is Charles Jourdain. So Charles Jourdain is 7,600 on DraftKings. I think he very well could knock Philly out. If not, I think that he could get the win by decision. Both fighters have looked pretty good for the most part. Philly most of his losses have been against the better fighters in that division. But I think that Jourdain is a very good up and coming fighter. I think that he will be able to, kind of do what he needs to do to get the win in this fight. I mean, I think his striking is going to give Philly some issues. I noticed that he does seem to kind of drop his defense a little bit when he's going in for strikes and stuff like that, just watching tape. And I think that that's going to be Jourdain's, something that he's going to be able to take advantage of and definitely potentially be able to rock him. Or if not, knock him out, at least strike him enough that he can win via decision. Right now, I do have a bet on Jourdain as well, which he has actually gone up a little bit since I bet him. But right now, he is plus 180. So I honestly, I really do like him as a dog on this card, plus 180. I think I'll definitely have some of him on DraftKings. He's one of my top value plays on DraftKings this week. I do have him in my cash lineup at this point in time. And I definitely I have a bet on him as well at plus 180 right
now. Well, I'm kind of excited on this match, and sometimes when I'm like that, I'll keep plugging away throughout the week, honestly, and sometimes even after we record, and I won't make my decision until right up to the fights, and this will probably be one of them. I've watched on Twitter and other social media. This seems like the Twitter Jam's pick of the week, if you will, for the dog play. I don't blame him. His finish rate's pretty phenomenal. Granted, it's against guys with very close to split records, 4-2, 16-11. A lot of 3-1, 3-2, 2-1, 0-0, 0-0, 2-2. Only guy I see on his record that I really respect as far as what's on paper would be both Des Green and Doo Ho Choi. Doo Ho Choi he was obviously able to take out in the second round, but Des Green he went all the way to the decision with and lost. I think Feely could take him to a decision. I think Feely's record is also kind of hit or miss, so that's why I think he could be taken to decision or honestly even taken out, like you say. Jourdain does have that high finish rate. We've seen guys like Godofredo Pepe take out Feely. He's an action-packed fighter. I think this fight will. I think this fight will score well. Whoever wins it, for sure. I think there's going to be some scrambles, a little bit of chaos until it comes to an end. If it goes to decision, I guess I favor Andre Feely, though. Pretty well going to stick with my initial lean. I'm still just kind of leaning on this fight. I need to put more time into this fight. I've already put the initial time in, but this is one of those ones where you put that time in and you almost feel more confused than when you started in on the fight. Like I said, I started this and I was like, Feely decision on this one is what I was like pretty well. Kind of too much too soon for Jourdain, I was thinking. But like I said, you look through the records and you watch some more tape and stuff, you kind of end up more just a little bit more lost. Maybe that's a sign that I should just kind of play a touch of each. I don't know. I'll line up with each of them. We'll see. I'll have to wait to the end of the week, and we'll see what other kind of line movement comes in. Take that into account. Like I said, I don't mind. I'll line up with each of them. If you want to bank on Feely to go to, I take that back. Feely's the higher price, doesn't he? He's above 8, is he?
Yeah, I think he is 83 or somewhere around there.
He's 8'6". Yeah, maybe I would go dog or pass on this one. I don't blame you. I might go with the KO prop, or not the KO prop, but the his propensity to finish fights inside the distance. I don't mind a dog play on Jourdain.
Yeah, honestly, looking at the KO prop isn't really high enough to be worth giving up the potential for the decision win or the submission win. When I looked at it, KO prop was in like the plus 200 range, like plus 230, plus 240. So I just don't think that's high enough to give up that extra odds where you're already getting him at plus 180. It's not worth giving up the potential to win by a decision or by submission to get that extra odds, personally. So next we got Marab
Devalishvili.
Devalishvili.
You got it.
They gotta make these names too damn hard. Like,
damn Georgian.
Versus Ray Borg. I got that one. That one was easy. So, Borg at 125 was an absolute beast. He moved up to 135 at his last fight against Simon, just because he couldn't make weight.
Yeah, it was moving.
And so he had to move up to this division. The issue though is that at 125 he could just bully people around. He was so big that he could just take people down at will. And that's, how he got his wins, honestly. That's how he got his title fight against Demetrius Johnson, was that he could just bully people around for 5 rounds. At 135, he looks small. And so, I mean, I think that this is another fight where, honestly, what is going to happen to him is what happened to the other fighters at 125. I think he is just going to get bullied. This other guy averages 7.8 takedowns per fight. 7.8. He is a takedown machine. I mean, and yes, Borg, he has a good striking defense. He only gives up 1.3 strikes per minute. The other guy only averages 3.84 strikes per minute, so not a crazy amount. But Borg's takedown defense is 50%. He is going to get taken down at will during this fight. I think he very well could, get taken down, get back up, get taken down, go back up. There may be 10 takedowns in the fight, if not more. I think it'll be by decision. So I do think Devashvili by decision at negative 185. That definitely is not bad odds at all, because he's not really a finisher per se. So I think that is how he's going to win more than likely. I do have him also in a parlay, but at negative 400, you're not betting that juice straight up. It's just way too high of odds to bet straight up. But by decision, I probably will go ahead and throw a straight bet on via decision at negative 185. And I will have him on a crap ton of DraftKings lineups, because at 9,200, with the amount of takedowns that he's going to get in this fight, he may very well be the highest scoring person on the slate, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think we're pretty well on the same page with this one, bar a couple of fights, which is pretty well par for the course, which we like. We like to see a couple guys' different takes and why those takes are different. But I'm with you. I think I think he pretty well touched on Devalishvili and pretty well exactly how I feel about it. He's the true 135er, correct? Borg was reluctant to move up to 135. He did everything. I mean, he begged him. He did everything he could to stay down there as long as possible with all the weight misses. We'll just say that. You know what I mean? I don't think the UFC appreciated the whole suing McGregor for. I mean, regardless of fault at the bus incident or not, it cost him some McGregor money too. So politics, you know what I mean? Borg put McGregor out for a little longer, maybe even than the UFC thought necessary. Borg is awesome, man. This is gonna be a bias warning here. 26 years old. That guy is hungry, bro. That guy is I mean, we see it like every week in and week out in this sport. We see lots of good BJJ specifically, a lot of specific focuses. But the grappling exchanges and the BJJ, Borg is phenomenal, man. He's been above par. He's been an excellent competitor on those two fortes, BJJ and the grappling, for probably always. Um, However, we've got Merab Dvalishvili here, and like I said, I'll pretty well leave Merab alone. I feel like you pretty well pegged everything I've got to say about Merab. He's going to go for those takedowns and chain takedowns. If one doesn't work, he'll work with the other. He will go for those takedowns the entire fight, and he does have the gas tank to do it. My one fear / path to victory I could see for Borg, very similar to the Ricky Simone fight, honestly. I remember where last second Merab went out, man. Regardless of whether or not you think that or how that fight ended, but Merab went out last second of that Ricky Simone fight where he was dominating. If he gasses himself going for these takedowns, which I think will play out exactly like you said, Borg being an excellent BJJ guy and grappler, he's got great get-up game, man. And his defense is pretty good, too. He gets taken down for sure, but I think a lot of Borg's getting taken down is a lot of times the knowledge that he knows he's got the shot at the reversal or even his quick get-up game. That guy's really good at getting right back up to the cage, which, like we said, will probably rack up the points for Dvalishvili. But Borg is also at the bottom of the salary on DK, so I can't ignore this. I know it's not much, but the possibility of a submission, I don't think I can ignore. I'll probably play at least one lineup given all that salary relief and the possibility of some reversals or advances or the submission threat. Maybe I'll probably do one little stab at Borg, but honestly, it's like I said, I think you nailed it with Merab by decision here. He's the bigger guy. He's already a big dominant guy for his weight class, let alone, like we said, with Borg coming up to face him. I don't see it panning out well for Borg. Neither does most of the wagering community either. A lot of our money this week is in on Merab. Training with, and how can you ignore? We saw fight Aljamain Sterling just last weekend. Like I said, how can you ignore training with guys like that? People, even me, I thought that fight was going to be more competitive, and Aljo.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Smoked Sandhagen. He smoked his head. So, like I said, training with guys like that, Alaya Quinta, Aljo Sterling, and the coaches, you know what I mean? Yeah, Merab by decision here. Dominant decision.
You think we'll see another $1 million bet on this fight?
Man, that was crazy. Somebody made $166,000 as much snack as they were talking about that bet. You know what I mean? I was really surprised that we didn't get to see the inside the distance. I was furious. I was like one of those fights where I was yelling all through 4th and 5th round for Nunes. Effing killer finisher, no mercy. I was like, this chick's gonna rise back up the rankings and think she's got a shot again at you if you don't just put her out, And she could.
Yeah.
I think she likes her on a personal basis. She match made one of Spencer's fights. So I think there was some camaraderie there, and she didn't put her away. It made me really sad.
Yeah, I had Nunes. It was a special bet. It was Nunes inside the distance, and then Garbrandt via KO. So I hit the Garbrandt part, and then the whole time I was like, "Come on!" Yeah, I think it was plus 250 odds or something like that, and obviously it didn't happen.
That Garbrandt fight, man. Garbrandt reaches down like he's gonna pick up a brick. Oh yeah, and he comes in anyway, and Garbrandt bricks him in the face with that right, man. It was one of those. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
From the hips, not even from the hips, from the knee, bro. He threw that thing. It's crazy.
But the next fight we got here, we can see some fireworks in this fight too, because these dudes just fucking hate each other. Honestly, we got Carl Roberson versus Marvin Vittori. So this is like the third time that this fight was supposed to happen. It was recently supposed to happen a couple weeks back, and Roberson got sick and basically dropped out on like the day before the fight. These two ended up almost brawling in the fucking hallway of the hotel. Uh, so I mean, these two just do not like each other at all. Um,
Yeah,
I was very heavy on Vitoli. The last time that they were supposed to fight, I had made a couple bets on him, and I don't really see the fight going any differently than I saw back then. I think that his biggest worry now. I do think he is a better fighter. I think the biggest worry now, though, is that they're both going to go in there being so angry at each other, have so much hatred at each other, that you have a Garbrandt Dillashaw type thing where they're not thinking clearly, they're not fighting the way that they should fight to their game plan. And anytime you have this type of emotion in a fight, you can slide off your game plan at 1 second and get clipped and get your head knocked off. And I think that could happen here. I think, honestly, Vittori, his path to victory is much like many of these other fights' paths to victory. I think taking him down and ground and pounding it is his path to victory. Roberson only has a 53% takedown defense. So if he can get that emotion out of his head, I think that he would be able to catch Roberson trying to come in on strikes, fighting off of emotion, and you may be able to take him down and either ground and pound the victory or win by decision. Right now, I do have Vittori. I bet him early on, honestly, when this fight first got announced a couple weeks ago. I bet him at, I believe it was negative 170. And he's up to negative 215 now. So he's dramatically risen since I bet him back a couple weeks ago. But I still honestly like him at negative 215. I put him in a parlay that I did, and I think that he honestly should easily win this fight.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. A lot of build up to this fight. I think Vittori feels like he's had a paycheck robbed out his pocket about 3 times now. So hence the emotion at the hotel room last time. No Punk, man. I mean, all I really got to say is Marvin Vittori's been in the UFC. I mean, Carl Robeson, hot prospect or whatever, but Vittori's been around longer. And to date, probably given Israel Adesanya his toughest challenge in a split decision loss that he took to Adesanya. A lot of people contested that. Took guys like Antonio Carlos Jr. to decision. Man, wins over Cesar Ferreira, that's serious. And then we have Carl Robeson looking a little shook by all the action in the hotel room the last time, you know what I mean? Man, I do believe that, like I said, I take factors like courage and heart, some of these outside factors that a lot of times people make a narrative out of, if you will. I take them into account, man.
Yeah.
You got to put yourself in these people's shoes, you know what I mean? If there's beef, sometimes it gets a whole lot more serious, you know what I mean? And you're able to walk through, that 1 or 2 extra punches to get to your target, you know what I mean, and just absorb it. And if anybody's kind of built like a tank to absorb, I mean, who better than Marvin Vittori at Kings MMA? A notoriously rough gym, man, to train in. Kings, there's not much light sparring at Kings, we'll put it that way. You're not getting out of training at Kings MMA without putting some damage on the hardware. You know what I mean? Those guys will put you down in training, in sparring. They train fighters there. So I think that's going to be a factor too. I think I remember when Vittori came into the UFC, and he was a little bit more of like the boyish kind of like, younger fighter, bit romantic from Italy, you know what I mean? And just his whole demeanor hardened from being at Kings MMA. Look back, watch, you know what I mean? They made a fighter out of the kid. You know what I mean? He got there young, and they've made a fighter out of him for sure. And it seems like all the smart money people I respect, at least around like the Twitterverse and everything, we've been we've been waiting for this fight to happen. You know what I mean? We keep plugging money away every time they set the fight to happen again. So
Yeah.
let's let it happen. Let's make it happen. Vittori, Marvin Vittori, bye. I don't know. I kind of see like what you said. I see him maybe getting the kickboxer to the ground. Seems logical, and just putting the work on him until we can pull the TKO. You know, get the ref to pull him off of him. It's going to be violent once he gets on him. He ain't going to let up, man. Not with that kind of emotion behind it. Yeah, give me Vittori all day long in this one. I understand Roberson's got the shot. You know, good kickboxer like that can definitely throw up a high kick or something you don't see coming, catch you square in the jaw. But man, I think Vittori could probably eat a couple of those to the jaw if I'm being real with you. So give me Vittori all day long.
Sure. Yeah, I remember the last time that they were supposed to fight. Like right before then, I had dropped a huge bet on Vittori. I think like 5-6 unit bet, and then they announced that the fight was off. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yep.
Like I just literally bet this guy huge, and now they called the fight.
Yeah.
Next fight we got the main event. So this is the second straight card that we have had a women's main event. This one is going to be a little bit different than the last one. This one we got Cynthia Calvillo versus Jessica I. I'll kick this one to you first. You let me know what you think. I think we're both kind of on the same page here, but you let me know what you think, and I'll close it out.
Yeah, we'll do. Well, I'll go ahead and start off by saying I think Calvillo's going to win it, and I think that probably you and I are both with the general public on that. And I think that's the quick take too. When you look at the paper on this fight, I think that's the quick take. It seems like an obvious Calvillo by decision, and then you start a wrestling-based path to decision win. But then you start kind of breaking it down in the level of fighters that Jessica I's fought and stuff, and it almost starts to muddy the waters a hair more. You know what I mean? You start to see paths to victory for Jessica I. But man, honestly, I think this is one of those ones where just new blood. Jessica is 33. Oh, it looks like they're probably about the same age, actually. They are about the same age. But less damage on the hardware, certainly for Cynthia Calvillo. She's, especially for a women's fighter, she's got a bit of a fan following, with a bit of the Nick Diaz style or whatever, that, her being fans of theirs and stuff. Looking through Calvillo's record, you can see that she's putting in more work into the grappling, which is already kind of something she's been working on throughout her career. So like I said, after looking into this fight more, it kind of muddied the waters a little bit more for me. I was starting to see paths of victory for Jessica I. But then this is one of those ones where I kind of had to step back altogether. I catch myself, honestly, a lot of times on women's fights especially, overthinking it, man, just because there's so many ways for Vegas to squeeze the juice out of you with a women's fight. Yeah. So I'm like, you'll reverse psychology yourself and then unreverse psychology yourself, and you know how it goes. So I kind of caught myself doing that, and I'd caught myself about to make a Jessica I lineup, and then I was kind of like, what the hell are you doing, man? This is Calvillo's fight all day long, you know what I mean? So this is one of those ones where you just got to kind of roll with common sense, I think, honestly. Calvillo has the wrestling edge. Jessica, I would say she's probably got the striking edge, but I think that Calvillo has enough striking, enough jabs to pump out so she can get a takedown. That combined with the 5 rounds, I think I favor Calvillo in the 5 rounds over I. And I think with those wrestling takedowns and transitions, I think they are going to come to fruition. And I think we'll see I struggle to get back to the feet a little bit. Even if she does get back to the feet, maybe taking down again. So I think over 5 rounds, we're going to want to, once again, in the main event, it always seems like Fight Metric is wide awake with the scoring. Like, in that last fight, they catch everything that they might not catch or, whatever they're doing during the earlier fights. So I think that they'll probably go ahead and accumulate every bit of point in these grappling exchanges and stuff for Calvillo, and I think she'll probably end up, especially at the underdog price for the 5-round main event fighter. I think she might be a slate breaker.
Yeah, I like her a lot. She is my top play, honestly, on DraftKings. Yeah, at 7,900, I think she is just way too low price. And I understand it because the fight, from the normal eye, from someone that doesn't really break down the fights very well, it would look like a toss-up fight. So I understand why she's only 7,900, but I think that's just way too low for her. Personally, I think she should be closer to the $8,500 range on DraftKings.
Yeah.
In a 15-minute fight, she averages 1.57 takedowns per fight. So if you equate that to, a 25-minute fight, which more than likely this fight will go the distance, I don't really see either of them finishing the fight. They're a 25-minute fight, you're looking at probably at least 2-3 takedowns, maybe even more, with the fact that I only has a 56% takedown defense. So she does not have a very good takedown defense at all. And you're already looking at someone who, averages more than one takedown per fight, almost 2 takedowns per fight, per 15 minutes. So I think she absolutely will get at least 3 takedowns, maybe even 4 more, which is going to add up over time. Then you add in the significant strikes that she's going to get and the fact that she more than likely will win via decision. I think you very easily could see her getting, 90 to 100 points, if not more. And for 7,900, that's going to be a huge steal. I honestly, ESI has been on a great streak recently outside of the championship fight, which obviously she lost because she had honestly no right being in that fight.
Oh man.
But she has looked good as of late. She's been on a nice streak recently. But I just don't think she's nearly as good as her streak makes her out to be. I honestly, I don't think she's that great of a fighter, really. And maybe I'm proven wrong. I've been wrong in these type of fights before, but I just don't see it personally. I think Calvillo, I think that she definitely wins this fight. I have a bet on her right now. I believe it's a 2-unit bet already, and I may even throw a little bit more depending on how the night is going, as it gets closer to that fight, depending on some of my other bets end up. Something I think, honestly, the more that I looked at it, something that I think may be my favorite bet of the night. Last card, I really liked that Nunez over 1.5 rounds, but that was absolutely obviously cashed. That was my favorite bet of the night. This one, I think it may be another main event bet, and maybe Calvillo wins by decision at plus 200.
Yeah.
I don't see how this fight ends any other way than via decision, personally. I think this may be a main event fight that absolutely goes the distance like we normally do see women fight go for the most part. So, you add in that factor of the fact that, almost, I'd probably say, at least 75% of women fight go at least, go the distance. And, then you're looking at a fight that not really either of them are finishers per se. I personally, I love that bet. Her plus 200. That's something that I absolutely will throw at you.
Yeah, honestly, I like most of the women's fights on this card coming up. and if you wanted to take a stab at all of them to go to decision, because we have Agapova, who a lot of people think have a submission opportunity. I mean, basically, there's narratives for a path to victory inside the distance for all these women's fights. Some will argue that Calvillo has a shot at the submission as well, along with Agapova. Avia, I think a lot of people are thinking has a good shot at having the ref call that fight early due to TKO. Basically, what I'm getting at is our goes to decision props for these women's fights this card are actually not that bad compared to what they usually are on women's fights. So
Yeah.
take a look at all of them and decide which one the viewers like best. Give it a stab. Hey, of the card or of the fights we discussed on the card this time around, is there any that you feel like were kind of leans to begin with that you feel like your decision maybe could be slightly swayed after this cast? Because if I had done that last week, in hindsight, and hindsight's 2020 as we know, but Maki Patolo, man, let's
I
go.
told you, man. I
I
told you.
6% of my lineups at cash, and I made a little bit of money. I made over breaking even. I didn't double up or anything, but I made a little bit of money. But if I had Maki Patolo in a couple key lineups, man, it would have been clutch. And it's hard to, you know what I mean? You probably spend a good hour and a half to, going over the what ifs and what if I had done this? What if I had done that? How am I going to be improved and be better next week? Because if you're
Yeah.
I mean, if you're serious about this at all, you know what I mean? You got to be a little, I get pretty hard on myself, man, on some of those losses. Like I said, I was pretty lit up about the Nunes inside the distance prop, just knowing women's fights. I don't care if she's the champ or not. These women's fights always have a shot to go the distance.
Yeah.
I was like, man, stop doing that dumb shit. You know what I mean? But
it was the Hooper fight that killed me,
right.
man. Just, I looked at some of my lineups and had Hooper done what I thought that Hooper was supposed to do, I would have killed this late. Honestly,
The lineup that
I still ended up breaking even, but
lineup would have killed with had Caceres already. It just needed like a little touch of that Maki Patolo or something like that, But anyway, it made me think about this card, and as we were going through or whatever, I've kind of looked at the 2, 3, or there's probably we're pretty close on this card. I think we're mostly on the same page, but there's about 2 fights that we're kind of on the opposing end of. I'm not budging a hair on my Mark De La Rosa pick, bro. I think he's the dog. But you do have to think about Charles Jourdain, man. So I think I'm going to mix in Charles Jourdain and see if we can't optimize the average of our. Just accept the fact that my Jourdain Feely pick is a lean, and maybe just go with it and see if I can't differentiate, make that lineup that I wouldn't normally make.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this card, I don't really think that I'll go many De La Rosa. Like I said, I may have 1 or 2 anyways going into it. But I don't really think that any of the dogs per se really jump out at me like they did last week as dogs that certainly could finish. I think a lot of the dogs that we have this week outside of Jourdain maybe, a lot of them don't really have that finishing quality like a Patalo did last week, or like a possibly Kelleher did in past fights and stuff of that nature. De La Rosa outside of submission, he doesn't really finish very often. Then you got Borg, who I just he has that outside chance, a very slim chance, but I personally don't see that at all. So, I mean, if you look at the dog ones that actually have a chance this week, I think not a lot of them have the finishing ability per se, really. I think a lot of the dogs that are this week outside of Jourdain are more decision-based victories, and you're hoping that you get 60 or 70 points, out of them compared to past weeks with Talo, with can't remember who the one that was the week before that I was all on, but that also got the knockout victory. That Gutierrez, that's who it was.
Right.
So I don't think that there's a dog like that this week, honestly.
Is there any fight that's a little you think you will have a little bit of both sides or feel a little more sure of one way or the other? After having talked with somebody else, that is, different perspective.
I don't know, man, honestly. Like, I think that the only one that I could honestly think of it is maybe the Ivy fight. Going into it, I think I wasn't really very heavy on either of those fighters. Um, I was probably going to have a little bit of Aguilera, one or two of Ivy, but probably not much just due to his salary. Um, so, I mean, that's maybe changed a little bit. I think, honestly, the fight that I probably will hedge the most. Probably the Nam fight, honestly. I think that is the fight that I will hedge the most. Because that's the fight that I have, I think, the closest, where I don't really have one lean of the other.
Yeah.
But that I think that there could be a finish one way or the other. Right now, I have Nam as my 9th rated on DraftKings, and I have Adashev as my 13th ranked. So I have them very close. Compared to salary wise, so I think that's probably the fight that I will hedge the most this week.
It's hard to ignore all the money coming in on Adashev and also the 3 Bellator wins, to be honest. Like I said, but watching the tape, I don't see it, and I don't see the hand speed. I see the power there, but I see Nam is defensive enough and a good point-based fighter enough to get to that decision. I mean, we'll see. I guess it's
and that's the great thing with MMA, man. You never know. You have an opinion. Like, everyone was on Hooper last week, and look what happened, man. So I mean, anything can happen in this sport. That's the great thing about it. So hopefully our opinions this week, can help make some people some money, help us make some money, and we'll be on to the next one.
Right on. Thanks for your time.
Well, make sure that you follow me at RSCMMA89 if you want to drop your handle.
Yeah, you can follow me at KODAMARENKSE on Twitter.
And also make sure that you do check out 100yardreport.com. We have signed on to write MMA articles for them starting this week. So the article should drop at some point late tonight or tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and get it sent out to him after this podcast. So make sure that you do check those guys out. Get them some views and, check out that article. We're going to put some our DraftKings plays on there, as well as a couple bets on there. And let's make some money, guys.
Let's do it.